All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Marion Homeschool Assistance Program Student Council Mental Health Podcast, featuring me. I didn't introduce myself in the last couple episodes. I'm Jim Ott, and I am one of the sponsors of the Student Council and a school psychologist, and so this is near and dear to my heart, these issues. So happy to talk with some students about various issues. Well, I'll introduce what it's going to be after I have the students introduce themselves.
I'm Bennett. I'm a sophomore.
My name's Sheppard. I'm a senior.
I'm Rionna. I'm a senior.
All right, so we got a sophomore and two seniors, but all members of the Student Council, all working on conversations that we're trying to do within the Marion Homeschool Assistance Program for high school students to kind of build community and address some of the topics that everybody faces. And the topic we're going to face today is one that everybody talks about. Like every day, people talk about this. But not everybody gets to do it the way they wish they could. Am I right? And the topic is sleep and the importance of sleep and why sleep is hard to get and why it's important and tricks and hints of ways that you can maximize your sleep during the week. I'm going to toss it out to you guys. What are some of the challenges you guys know, both for yourselves but people your age, in regard to getting sufficient sleep?
Okay, I would say a lot of challenges is a lot of teenagers, people my age, we go to bed really late and then we wake up really late. And so it just causes a lot of issues because it's hard to do that in my opinion because a lot of times you get your best sleep before midnight, at least in my experiences. So it's a lot of times, teenagers, we stay out late, hanging out with friends, stuff like that. And so it's just hard to get to bed. And then maybe you have class in the morning, so you have to wake up in the morning. And it's just, so you're getting to bed at like midnight. Then you're waking up at 6 for class, to get 6 hours of sleep, and it's some rough, rocky sleep. So it's just some challenges.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of people wait to do their homework last minute, so they will wait and it'll be like midnight, and they're like, oh man, I gotta do my homework. So then they don't get to bed till 3 a.m., but then they have class at 7, so then they get just a few hours of sleep there.
Yeah, that's good.
We've been looking at sleep in my psychology course, and actually, in little kids, their brain produces a chemical that helps them to fall asleep in the evening and wake up in the morning, and the same for adults. But for some reason, for teenagers, it kind of just swaps, so our brain keeps us awake in the evening and then makes us tired in the morning. I don't know why.
No, it's legit. One of the things you were saying, teenagers, as a rule, not all, some teenagers this doesn't happen to in the same way, but as a group, for most teenagers, what they talk about is your circadian rhythm changes and it flips and you become more alert later, but it's a heck of a chore to get out of bed. And so one of the things that some schools have done is they've moved to a later starting date or starting time during the day. But you can't start a school day, and you guys are homeschooled but also in a school. You can't start a school day at 2 in the afternoon. That's not going to work. So they move it from 7:30 to 8:30. Helps. That's still really early. But it's one of the things that we can say about it is important to know. It's totally normal if you're a teenager to want to stay up late and to have trouble getting up in the morning. That's not something's wrong with you. That means you're normal. Now, managing that is a whole other thing because the world continues to function on a basically 7 to 5 kind of a time frame. So, yeah. So what are some things I don't know, if you guys face this personally, what do you do? How do you help yourselves? What works for you guys?
Okay, so one thing that I've really locked down on, because I swim a lot, I swim and I have class early mornings, and then I don't get home from swimming till a lot of times till 9 or even 10 o'clock at night. But on days that I have earlier swimming or that I don't have swim team at night because of a cancellation or something, I've made sure that I'm home, or after youth group, I try and get home before 9:30. And if swimming ends at a certain time, I'm home, as a cardinal rule, I'm home by 9:30, and then I'm getting upstairs, fully showered, eaten, brushed my teeth, I'm getting upstairs, and then I have half an hour to basically get my light off. And I have things that I do before I go to bed, I read my Bible, I shut the brain down, or I read a lot. Basically, some things that have helped me is I do the same things half an hour before I go to sleep every night. Then I can turn my light off and I can fall asleep faster. And then when I wake up in the morning, I do the same 30-minute routine after I wake up in the morning. A lot of times, if you have trouble getting out of bed, Sometimes you just need to a lot of times I'll just jolt myself awake. Like I'll literally rock my body and that'll help me get up. A lot of people work out in the morning, helps them get going. But it's like you need to set, if you really find that you're having trouble with sleep, you need to be, okay, it's 9 o'clock. I need to go. Stop hanging out with friends. You don't need to be out till 10:30 at night. And with me, I've had to balance that with my drive as well. I have 35, 40-minute drive. So I need to also make sure I'm getting enough sleep because I've had times where I'm like, dang, I'm tired. I really shouldn't be driving. So it's those things you have to balance. And I get a solid 7 hours of sleep a night, which isn't probably enough, but it's a very set routine. It's the same 7 hours every night. And so it works for me and what I have to do. And I get that half an hour routine before and after I wake up, which again gets my brain into a rhythm. So you really need to find a routine and stick to it, even if there's variables.
Yeah, one thing for me I would say is I have very much, like this year I go to bed early. I'm like an old person. But before I go to bed, for 30 minutes to like an hour before I go to bed, I don't have screen time whatsoever. Like I don't look at my phone, don't watch TV, nothing. If I have homework, I'll do it in the morning when I get up. Which that has helped me. But I mean, in my family, sleep problems, run in the family. So in general, I can't sleep the best. I just struggle with that. But limiting screen time has definitely helped with that. In the mornings to get up, I just kind of, as soon as the alarm goes off, I get out of bed so I can't, I don't have the chance to fall back asleep. It's just get up, start your routine.
That's good.
Yeah, the most important thing that I can do to get myself out of bed is to be out of bed. Like the hardest part is just simply getting up, because once you do, that's when the blood starts flowing, your brain starts working, and then you don't want to go back to bed. You're ready to hit the day.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right off of all the hints that they tell you about sleep. It's exactly what you're talking about. Get up and get going. Have a routine. The routine is so important. What do they, I don't know if they talk about this in the class you're doing, but what is the recommended for a full night's sleep for a teenager? The number of hours. Do you know what it is? Did they talk about this?
I'm pretty sure it was 9 hours.
Yeah.
Is what I was taught.
Yeah, and which is more than an adult. It's less than a little kid. But yeah, it's if you read a lot of things, somewhere between 8 and 10 hours, but they usually land right at 9 hours. You should have right around 9 hours of sleep. Well, how many people do you know are getting 9 hours of sleep in your age group? Nobody. Nobody. And in some cases, it may not even be possible. And so then it becomes that much more important to maximize the sleep that you get. To have a way, if you're only going to get 7, which how many people are getting 7 hours of sleep? Not that many. But if you're going to only get 7, to really do everything you can to preserve that 7 hours. The information, Google this, okay? If you're interested, I'm just telling you. What happens when people don't get enough sleep? What in your experience, what happens when people don't get enough sleep?
Personally, or just
sure, personally, and people and you're just
my body shuts down. I start losing I can't function as well. I'm very I feel very weak. I just can't function as well if I'm really exhausted.
Yeah, that's good.
I had, over the summer, I was working and swimming and balancing morning practices in the afternoon, and I was 4 hours of sleep a night because of all the stuff I had to do. I was on my own as well. My parents were out of town. And it was bad. I mean, I was run down. I would get home and I'd sit on the couch and be like, oh, I feel ready for tomorrow. And I just couldn't do it. I was I need, half an hour to just relax. And it was hard to even sleep. It was I have all these things to do. I can't go to bed. I can't do it. And so it's my body was just you need to stop. But I couldn't because I had all these responsibilities that I had to do. And so I got sick. So that was rough. Progressively, I just started to shut down. My systems were no, you're done. So.
Wow.
I was the same way. I probably got 6 or 7 hours of sleep, but I had to wake up for cross training, and then I had a field job that I worked as well. So I was probably outdoors 10 or more hours a day. And at that point, with the little sleep I was getting, my body would just I was just tired all the time. Mm-hmm. I couldn't focus on much of anything. I was kind of just, I don't know, touchy. My mood was just in the tank.
Wow, that's really good, and I hope that's an encouragement, because somebody that's listening to this is like, yeah, I don't get enough sleep, and I wondered why I was in such a bad mood all the time, or why my body feels like it's shutting down. That is what happens if you don't get enough sleep, and solving that for every individual is difficult. We can't climb into your living room right now and tell you what to do, but it is definitely the data, the research has been done on sleep loss in terms of mental health problems, in terms of productivity, in terms of athletic performance. All of these things can be directly traced to how many hours of sleep you get. And one of the things we don't talk about as much is how much a teenager's brain, how much work a teenager's brain is doing going from being a child to being an adult. Like, unconsciously, you're not, but one of the things that's happening when you're sleeping, your brain is doing a ton of work. It's doing a lot of stuff that it can do because you're not wasting all its time on YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. Like, your brain is able to do things like purge waste out of the brain, like being able to strengthen certain neurological pathways. This is all taking place while you're asleep. If you don't sleep enough, your brain isn't getting the time to develop the strength that you want it to have. Like, you want to have a strong brain, right? Obviously. And so being able to come up with some things that help you sleep effectively in the time that you have, and always looking for extra sleep, is a good thing. So here's one. How many of you guys take a nap?
I take naps every week. I have my days. Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll be home in the afternoon and have a little bit of time. Those are my nap days.
Yeah. Naps can be fantastic if you can squeeze them in. If you've got even 30 minutes, that a nap, even though it's hard to shake out of it once you come out of it, naps can be an effective way to give your brain just a rest in the middle of the day. And I think every school should be like kindergarten used to be. This is literally true. You guys, you'll just laugh at me. But when I was in kindergarten, we only went for half a day. There was no homeschool, right? I had to go to school. We only went for half a day, and during that half day, we got a nap. Like, that's school right there. Half a day, take a nap. It's the best. But we don't necessarily prioritize how much rest people need. So naps are a good thing. What are some other things that maybe haven't mentioned that you think would be important to mention in terms of maximizing your sleep? Talk about a routine. What are some other things that you guys know about or have heard about?
Okay, I would say so say you're hitting 9 hours or like 8 or 9 hours of sleep. Say you somehow can manage that. One thing that helps, like, actually makes me feel better no matter how much sleep I get, is waking up earlier and going to bed earlier, as opposed to going to bed late and waking up late. Your brain has better brain function in the morning, so wake up early and go to bed early if you can. I think that's just like the best way to maximize your hours of sleep.
That's good.
So,
I would say another thing is just be active throughout the day, because if you just sit around all day, then like your body really hasn't gotten that tired throughout the day, so it's harder to sleep. Yeah, I always make sure to like try and be active. I can tell a difference if I was like sitting around all day, or if I was like actually active. I can definitely sleep better at night then.
Yeah, good.
Keeping like a comfortable environment as well. Like in my room, I keep it dark. I have like a basement room, so I'm able to keep the window open with it still being dark. And then the sun also helps me wake up. And then I always have same number of blankets, same mattress, keep lights as small, like if I have a computer in my room. I turn off all the lights and everything, turn off the screen, make sure it's just as dark as possible to really help sleep.
Yeah. So I'll give you just a couple other ones that, one, everybody knows. Get as much tech out of your room as you possibly can, especially your phone. Nobody should sleep with their phone. And I don't just mean teenagers. Nobody should sleep in the room where their phone is. Because we have reached a point in our culture, this isn't a right or wrong thing, it's a thing, where we're addicted to our phones and we can't not respond. Now, someone will say, well, I can keep it in there if I turn it off. Duh, okay? I agree. If it's turned off. But the phone should not be on. And it would be best if it wasn't in your room, because then you can't, in the middle of the night, think, oh, I'll just reach over and check it. So get the tech out of your room. There's lots of research on that. It's so good. But here's another thing that maybe people don't think about. if you are having trouble sleeping, or if sleeping comes, it's challenging for you, one of the things you can do is to only use your bed for sleeping. Meaning, don't read in bed, don't scroll on TikTok on bed, don't do your homework in bed, don't play with your dog in the bed, don't do anything in the bed except sleep. And as you develop that as a habit, your brain then associates the bed with sleep, as opposed to things that actually would activate and get your brain going. And people don't necessarily think about that as an intervention, but it is something that you can do. Begin to do everything anywhere else except in bed, so the bed becomes only for sleep. It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue because our world is demanding that you stay awake 24/7. And if you want to be successful, right, you can't just do your homework. You also got to swim. You also got a job. You also got to run cross country. You also got to be in a mock. You got like all the things that we talk about. You got boop, boop, all this stuff. And in order to feel like I'm being successful, I have to do all this stuff. Things that weren't even available for, in my day, we didn't have all these options. And so it might have been a little bit easier. But this is your time. So the challenge is maximize your sleep. Good stuff. Any last comments? Anything anybody wants to say? It's really good. Really, you guys are so smart. This is the Marian Homeschool Assistance Program Student Council Mental Health Podcast, featuring Jim Odd with our engineer today, Olivia Coates. We always introduce the engineer. Yeah. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.